Are you sick and tired of catching the ground before the ball with your driver? Are you sick of hitting it right and left? And guys, today on Get Good at Golf, that is exactly what we're going to talk about on your weekly hike. So how many times I see golfers come for lessons, I'm catching the ground before, I'm starting to bottom out a little bit early, I've got no face control, and they don't know why. And the biggest thing, and you'll know by the title, is they're looking at the golf ball. So you're fixated on that golf ball. You forget about your setup, everything's focused on hitting at the golf ball or trying to help the golf ball up, and from there we're getting into all sorts of positions with our body, with our club face, that's affecting that. And what we do when we do that, we lose confidence, we're thinking about the ball. What does this wrist do? This wrist starts to do everything. We start to get it going bowing and cupping. We also start to see it going up and down with our wrist. We're hinging too much, and this is where we lose all our club face control. So if we can change where you're looking at when you stand over the golf ball, so we need to think about getting you looking in front of that golf ball or before that golf ball. So your low point wants to be probably here with your driver, maybe a club head width behind that.
You know what it needs
ball
to be, Chris? It needs to be,
there we go.
And this would be a great way to look at it, wouldn't it? I wouldn't recommend hitting it like this, but
again, right where your phone would be. So that's where we want our low point to be. We're going to get that club working up into the golf ball. Then if we can get the club working up into the golf ball, we can get the launch, try and minimize the spin and get longer, straighter, more controlled shots. So obviously when I come in to set up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my ball position correct, and then really for me I'm looking nearly at the back edge of my driver, because that's really where I want to start that club working up. So I'm looking right at the back of that club. I'm going to make a nice motion now, and as I come back down into impact, up to the top, down, you'll see my club is at its lowest point right here. It's now working up and through the golf ball, and if I do that, my focus has gone away from hitting that golf ball. It's gone away from thinking, right, I've got to get my wrist, I've got to release the ball, because everybody's told me I need to release the club, I need to get into impact. All right, actually no, I've been hitting it too high, so I'm going to hold it off. My wrist's going to get into all sorts of positions, and that's not going to generate the strike that we want. You'll see there that club face is coming in a position that we'd never want to see, and the trees wouldn't enjoy that either. So obviously what we want to do is get that routine of think about where we are looking and where we are going to be looking to get our club bottoming out. If we can do that, you can start to see that I'll be able to generate a better strike. I can swing within myself, and that is a nice bullet straight, low piercing ball flight here with my driver. I've not had to try and hit it, I've swung through that, I've just committed to the shot, and I've looked at before or behind the golf ball. You can see here, as we can see from there, we're very neutral when it comes into impact. So if we look at impact, there's no real rotation in my wrist. Again, here we're going to have a little bit of hinge with our, basically with our cocking of the wrist. So again, obviously when we're in an angle here, we're going to have that little bit of angle with those wrists, but you can see it's very neutral. And obviously, yes, there's a lot of numbers on that screen, but it's showing how we can get into a consistent position. If I can do that again, I'm going to start to see that my wrists are going to work in the same way. But the best thing about this is I'm not even thinking about the wrist. I'm not thinking about releasing the club head. I'm not thinking about anything. All I'm thinking about is where my low point is. I'm committing to that. I'm taking the focus away from the golf ball. All we're trying to do here is hit up on that golf ball. Again, get hitting up on that. It's going to help us reduce the spin, get the launch not from the wrist. If we start to get the wrist involved a little bit too much, if I'm starting to release from the top, we're going to add a lot of loft. We're going to add some cupping to that wrist. You can see that on that second shot there, my wrist, if anything, were a little bit flexed, we're a little bit bowed, which is going to help us take that loft off and get a strong strike. As soon as we start to let that club head release, we're going to start to open up the left side of the course, the right side of the course, the top, the thin, maybe even the sky, depending where your ball position is. So you need to think about that when you are trying to generate the correct strike. Obviously also what you might see is if we're starting to release it, we're getting a downward angle of attack. So all these drills here are trying to get us hitting up on that golf ball to get you more consistent, because if we hit down with the driver, that's going to open a lot of place on the golf course where you don't want to be. We all know we want to hit the ball as hard as we can. We all get fixated on hitting that golf ball. If I can take my focus away from that, I can start to get some consistency and start to hit great drives like that. Two of the best drives I've hit on here. I've not thought about hitting the golf ball. I've just thought about where my low point is and committing to that. Again, on screen, we can see got a little bit more bowing there on the wrist. Again, that...
Want to get away for spring, do you?
Yeah, I want to get away for spring. Again, we can see not much deviation in there, so I'm very consistent with my wrist positions. I can start to work out exactly what's happening. That's 2 golf balls in the fairway by taking my focus away from that golf ball. Start to relax, start to just think, I'm not trying to strangle the club, I'm not trying to release, I've got to get it here, 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 and then here. And I've got to hit it as hard as possible, and I've got to get it past Barry, my playing partner. All we want to do is think about what we are doing with our movements to get you better in 2024.